So for this module, we're going to talk about trigonometric ratios. At the end of this video, you'll be able to do the following. First, define the 6 trigonometric ratios. Second, evaluate the values of the 6 trigonometric ratios of an angle. And third, use the reference angles to find the value of the trigonometric ratios of the angle. Para ma-define natin yung trigonometric ratios, kailangan alam muna natin kung ano yung unit circle. Na-discuss na natin ito sa pre-calculus pero balikan muna natin siya saglit. So, what is the unit circle? To put it simply, may dalawang conditions na dapat masatisfy ang isang bilog para maging unit circle siya. First, yung center niya dapat nasa origin or at 0, 0. So that is the first condition. And second, dapat ang radius niya ay 1 unit. Eksakto. Total may center at radius naman na tayo, pwede natin siya isulat as an equation or in center radius form. So the equation is x squared plus y squared equals 1. Pwede natin siya i-graph sa unit circle. Tingnan natin yung unit circle sa graph na to. Suppose na meron kang point xy na nasa unit circle. Meaning, from the origin, that's x units to the right and y units above. Right? Makakabuo tayo na ngayon ng right triangles using these two sides and the radius, which is 1. So yung right triangle na yan yung magiging basis natin sa ating trigonometric ratios. Let's now define the first 3 trigonometric ratios. Una, si sine. Sine is defined as opposite over hypotenuse. Pero paano natin siya makikita sa unit circle? Paano natin siya makikita dun sa right triangle natin? Si opposite, ang titingnan mo dito, nakabase siya dito sa angle theta mo. Ibig sabihin ng opposite is yung side sa tapat ng angle theta mo. In this case, yung opposite side mo is y. This is now your opposite side. Meanwhile, yung hypotenuse mo, that is the longest side of your triangle. Yung longest side ng triangle, palaging katapat ng right angle mo. May right angle ka sa right triangle, ang katapat niyan, yung hypotenuse. So in this case, ang hypotenuse mo dito ay 1. Since sin theta is opposite over hypotenuse, isa-substitute na lang yan siya natin. So magiging y over 1 siya or simply y. So that is how we define sine. Next is cosine. And how are we going to define cosine? Cosine theta is simply adjacent over hypotenuse. Alam na natin si hypotenuse, wala na tayong problema dyan. 1 na yan siya. Pero paano si adjacent? Si adjacent, katulad ng opposite. Magbabase tayo dito kay theta ulit. Pag sinabi kasing adjacent, yun yung side na nasa tabi. Yun yung nasa tabi ng angle theta mo. In this case, ang adjacent side mo is x. So your adjacent side here is x. And pag sinubstitute natin yan, adjacent over hypotenuse, that will just be x over 1 or simply x. Ang third one natin is tangent. Tangent theta is defined as opposite over adjacent. Since alam naman natin kung ano si opposite at ano si adjacent, isa-substitute na lang natin yan. Opposite is y, adjacent is x. Therefore, tangent theta is y over x. So, doon naman tayo sa susunod na tatlong trigonometric ratio. And we have already identified yung tatlo, di ba? You have your hypotenuse already, you have your opposite, and your adjacent. So, we have your cosecant. Cosecant is defined as hypotenuse over opposite. So, simpleng substitute lang natin yan, makukuha natin si 1 over y. Secant is defined as hypotenuse over adjacent, which is 1 over x. And lastly, we have cotangent, which is defined as adjacent over opposite, which is equal to x over y. So, meron tayong 6 na trigonometric ratios. Meron tayong mnemonic na magagamit para matandaan ang trigonometric ratios. Simulan natin doon kay sine, kay cosine, at si tangent. So, paano natin makukuha si mnemonic? Balik ulit tayo sa definition. Si sine, opposite over hypotenuse, diba? So, let us take the first letters doon sa equation. Sine, opposite, hypotenuse. So, S, O, H, makuha natin si SO. Si cosine, first letters ulit, C, A, H. Kaya makuha natin si K. And for tangent, that's opposite over adjacent. Tangent, opposite, adjacent. Makukuha natin ngayon si TOA dyan. Ngayon, itong tatlo, pag pinagsama-sama natin yan, makukuha natin si SOHCAHTOA. Madalas yun na yung naririnig dati, magagamit natin ulit yan. Si SOHCAHTOA. Pero paano yung sunod na tatlo? Pwede din naman natin siyang gamitin. Si cosecant, secant, at cotangent. Ganon din ang tactic natin. Si cosecant, we get the first letters. Cosecant, hypotenuse, opposite. So, makukuha natin dyan si CHO. Si secant, yan, secant, hypotenuse, adjacent, kaya siya. And cotangent is adjacent over opposite, C, A, O. That's cow. So, itong ibaba na to, CHO-SHA-COW. CHO-SHA-COW yan. Okay? So, yung 6 na trigonometric ratios na to, pwede natin pagsama-samahin to get SOHCAHTOA, CHO-SHA-COW. SOHCAHTOA, CHO-SHA-COW. Yun, mas madaling matandaan, ano? SOHCAHTOA, CHO-SHA-COW, SOHCAHTOA, CHO-SHA-COW. Okay? Dun sa trigonometric ratios, lagi natin binabanggit si theta, diba? So, yan si theta. Reminder that your theta can take any real number. Kahit anong real number ang pwede mong gamitin kay theta. At magbibigayan siya ng trigonometric ratio. However, may mga specific values ng theta na eksakto, na madaling tandaan. Pag pinasak mo siya sa trigonometry, may lalabas na eksaktong value. So, yung mga values ng theta na yan yung mga tinatawag natin na special angles. Papakita ko ngayon dito sa table yung special angles doon sa first quadrant. Okay, let's take your time to look at this table. Pwede nyo rin i-pause. So, you have your special angles 0, 30, 45, 60, and 90 degrees. Or kung gusto nyo radians, 0, pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, and pi over 2. So, for each of these special angles, meron tayong coordinates na naka-associate dyan. So, each of these coordinates, makikita at makikita niyo yan siya dun sa buong unit circle. These special angles, these only apply to the first quadrant. However, tingnan natin kung ano magiging itsura ng special angles kapag makikita natin sa ibang quadrant. Let's take a look at this unit circle. So in this unit circle, mapapansin natin na yung mga angles natin na ito ay wala sa quadrants. These are what we call actually as quadrantal angles. Quadrantal angles because they serve as borders or boundaries sa mga quadrants natin. If your angle is at the y-axis, ito, tsaka ito, you would see 0, 1, 0, negative 1, and also the denominators are 2. And kapag nasa x-axis naman, ang denominator niya ay 1. And take a look at the coefficients. That's negative 1, 0, and positive 1, 0. So in short, yung radian measures natin dito, may denominator na 2 sa y-axis, and kapag sa x-axis, may denominator na 1. Dito naman tayo. So as you can see, you have there certain angles, 45, 135, 225, and 315 degrees. Pero magpo-focus tayo sa radians kasi mas madali siya makita. As you can see, you have pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4. Now, there are two similarities here. First of all, you would notice that the denominators for all these angles ay 4. In addition, kung mapapansin niyo yung coordinates, ayan yun siya. The coordinates are square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Lahat yan pare-parehas ng coordinates. Nagbabago lang yan ng signs, depende kung nasa ang quadrant siya. So halimbawa, dito sa first quadrant, parehas silang positive. Sa second quadrant, that's negative, positive. Sa third quadrant, that's negative, negative. And then the fourth quadrant, that's positive, negative. That you should remember in your pre-calculus class. So pare-parehas lang ang coordinates, mag-a-adjust na lang tayo sa signs. And one more thing, kapag kinuha natin yung reference angles ng mga yan, lahat yan ay may reference angle na pi over 4. So if you're going to get the reference angle of a particular angle, tapos ang lumabas ay pi over 4, automatic, ang coordinates niya ay ito. Square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Then maglalagay ka na lang ng signs, depende sa kung saang quadrant yan siya. Next, ito naman. So ito, pinagsama na natin dito si 30 and 60 degrees. Unahin muna natin yung broken lines. So dun sa broken lines, take a look at the denominators. Lahat yan ay over 6. Pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6. And kapag over 6 ang denominator mo, or sabihin na natin, pwede natin makuha yung reference angle, lahat yan pi over 6. Kung pi over 6 ang reference angle ninyo, automatic, ang coefficients ninyo, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Makikita mo yan lahat. Square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Lahat yan pare-parehas na square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Mag-a-adjust lang tayo sa signs. So, yun yung ating characteristics kapag pi over 6. 30 degrees ang reference angle. On the other hand, kung titingnan natin yung solid lines, 6 pa rin ang denominators na nilagay ko. However, yung mga radian measures na yan, pwede pa nating masimplify. So, yung 2 pi over 6, magiging pi over 3. Itong 4 pi over 6, magiging 2 pi over 3. And so on. So, kapag masisimplify natin yan, we end up with something over 3. At ang reference angles ng lahat ng mga yan ay palaging pi over 3. Pi over 3 yan. Itong mga blue na to. In this case, kapag pi over 3 ang reference angle ninyo, baliktad naman. That would be 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Katulad yan. Lahat yan magkakatulad. 1/2 square root of 3 over 2, 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Ang pinagkaiba lang ay sa signs. So, despite the fact na lahat ng radian measures dyan ay denominator ng 6, magkaiba yan siya. Depende kung masisimplify mo pa o hindi. If we combine all of those angles in a single unit circle, ito ang kalalabasan. Huwag kang mag-alala, huwag kayong matakot. Very handy guide lang yan. So, paano? The coordinates of a particular angle can be done or can be determined by following this flowchart. So, first, identify muna natin if your theta is between 0 and 360 degrees or 0 and 2 pi radians. Pag sinulat ko yan, 0 degrees less than or equal to theta less than or equal to 360 degrees. Or kung naka-radians naman, 0 less than or equal to theta less than or equal to 2 pi. Ito yun siya. Ngayon, depende sa value ng theta ninyo. Kung yung value ng theta ninyo nasa range na binigay ko, hahanapin na natin agad si reference angle. Okay? Si reference angle, after na makuha si reference angle, identify natin si coordinates. Paano natin mahanap si coordinates? Yung binanggit natin kanina. Kung ang reference angle mo ay pi over 6, reference angle mo ay pi over 4, o kung ang reference angle mo ay pi over 3. Pwede rin ang reference angle mo wala. Kapag wala kang reference angle, it is implied na quadrantal yung angle mo. Kaya wala tayong problemahin. Paano naman kapag yung value ng theta mo wala dyan? Let's say for example, negative 400 degrees. O kaya 9 pi over 4. Idadaan mo muna sa smallest positive coterminal angle. Kailangan natin hanapin si smallest positive coterminal angle. So if you would recall your pre-calculus lessons, yung coterminal angle, it's just plus or minus 360 degrees. Or kung naka-radians, that's plus or minus 2 pi radians. So after natin makuha sa smallest positive coterminal angle, reference angle na tayo. Then we're going to identify the coordinates. Okay? Let's see how this works by doing some examples. So for these examples, let us find the coordinates of the following angles. If you want, pwede nyo i-pause ang video na to kung gusto nyo i-solve muna ng mag-isa. Then play it again to check kung tama ang solutions ninyo. So let us proceed. So for the first example, we have to find the coordinates of 45 degrees. Now, in order to find the coordinates, kailangan alam muna natin kung nasa ang quadrant at kung ano ang reference angle. So since our given example is 45, obviously it's within the given range. So wala na tayong gagawin, diretso na tayo. So 45 degrees is actually in the first quadrant, so ang coordinates niyan ay positive, positive. The reference angle, since nasa first quadrant yan, that is 45 degrees din mismo. 45 degrees, ano ang coordinates ng 45 degrees? The square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So ilalapat na lang natin yung signs. So our answer here would be square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. For number 2, we have 180 degrees. First of all, nasa range ba yan siya? Definitely, it's within the range 0 to 360 degrees. However, is it located in any of the quadrants? Hindi. It is not located in any of the quadrants. Wala. Because 180 degrees is actually located in the x-axis. So let us illustrate it for you. This is your Cartesian plane. X, Y. Yung 180 degrees mo, ito. Remember that your angle is always in standard position. So, ito yun siya. Klaro? Since nasa negative x-axis siya, wala tayong reference angle. And anong coordinate ng circle na nasa x-axis? That is obviously negative 1, 0. So, yun yung sagot natin. It's negative 1, 0. Let's proceed with number 3. It's negative 210 degrees. Is it within the range? Wala. Negative number yan eh. It is outside of our range 0 to 360 degrees. Since we are already at that case, we have to find the smallest positive coterminal angle. Sabi ko nga kanina, we add or subtract 360 depende kung ano ang kailangan para makapasok ka sa range. Since our given value is negative, para makapasok tayo sa range, we we have to add. Magdadagdag tayo ngayon ng 360 degrees. So we end up with this one. So that's negative 210 degrees plus 360 degrees. That is 150 degrees. Ito ngayon yung pagbabasehan natin. Yung 150 degrees. Yung 150 degrees na yan, that is located in the second quadrant. Ito na yun, second quadrant. So, ang signs niyan ay negative, positive. Okay na tayo dyan. Now, next, yung 150 degrees natin, we have to find the reference angle. And since nasa second quadrant yan, if you would remember your pre-calculus, yung reference angle niyan, that's 180 minus 150 degrees. Magigisagot natin dyan ay 30 degrees. And if you would remember our special angles, ang coordinates ng 30 degrees ay square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Ipasok natin si sines, we end up with this one as our answer. That's negative square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. Next, we have number 4, that is 7 pi over 4. 7 pi over 4, kung hindi kayo sanay naka-radians, you can convert it into degrees. However, let's try to solve it using radian measures. First, is it within the range? 0 to 2 pi. Yes. 7 over 4. Remember, 7 over 4 is less than 2. Kaya, within range pa yan. Okay? So, kung within range na yan, there's no need to solve for the smallest positive coterminal angle. Diretso na tayo sa reference angle. So, yung 7 pi over 4 saan quadrant yan? Nasa quadrant 4. So, quadrant 4, kopyahin natin yung sign that's positive, negative. Okay? Then, we're going to get the reference angle. And how do we get the reference angle kung nasa 4th quadrant yan? So, that is 2 pi minus 7 pi over 4. So, ito yung sistema kapag nasa 4th quadrant. Okay? Ngayon, we just simplify 8 pi over 4. Bakit naging 8 pi over 4? We just multiply them both sides by 4. Multiply the numerator and denominator by 4. Itong 2 pi. So, yung 2 pi, minultiply natin ng 4 over 4. Kaya naging 8 pi over 4. Kung hindi pa rin maintindihan kung bakit, please review addition of dissimilar fractions. So, simplifying this even further, we end up with pi over 4. So, this pi over 4 is our reference angle. And ano ang coordinates ng pi over 4? Square root of 2 over 2. Square root of 2 over 2. So, yan po yung ating coordinates. So, ilapat lang natin, we end up with this one as our answer. That's square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. And for number 5, we have negative 5 pi over 4. So, katulad sa unang examples, ang tanungin natin is, kung yung negative 5 pi over 4 ba ay nasa range na 0 to 2 pi. Nandun ba? The answer is no. Wala siya sa range because your theta, your given angle is less than 0. Since wala siya dun sa range na binigay natin, yung 0 to 2 pi, we need to find the smallest positive coterminal angle. In this case, since negative ang given number natin, magdadagdag tayo ng 2 pi. So in this case, we have negative 5 pi over 4. To get the smallest positive coterminal angle, we simply add 2 pi. Yung 8 pi over 4 na to, this is actually equal to 2 pi. Ginawa lang natin siyang 8 pi over 4 para ma-add natin si 5 pi over 4 doon sa 8 pi over 4. So we can perform addition of similar fractions. And after simplifying, we get 3 pi over 4. So itong 3 pi over 4 na to, this is going to be our basis. Basis para saan? Kung nasang quadrant siya. Nasang quadrant ngayon si 3 pi over 4? Nasa second quadrant. So, yung 3 pi over 4 nasa second quadrant, therefore, ang coordinates ng point niyan ay negative, positive. Since we also know kung nasa ang quadrant si 3 pi over 4, we can also get now the reference angle. So in this case, to get the reference angle, we simply have pi minus 3 pi over 4. So pi minus 3 pi over 4, we can rewrite it as 4 pi over 4 minus 3 pi over 4. Remember, yung 4 pi over 4, that is simply pi. Ginawa natin siyang 4 pi over 4 para mas madali nating masubtract yung given, yung ating computation. And therefore, makuha natin yung reference angle na pi over 4. In this case, ang coordinates ng pi over 4, that is square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Yan yung coordinates natin for pi over 4. Let us adapt the signs, kopyahin natin yung signs, and we have our final answer. That is negative square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Okay, for the second examples, we are to determine the exact values of the following. So, ito na yung mga trigonometric ratios. We're going to solve them one by one, the following slides. So first, we have cosine 45 degrees. So in order for us to evaluate this trigonometric ratio, we first have to find the coordinates of 45 degrees. Ito muna, yung coordinate niyan. So what is the coordinate of 45 degrees? You should be able to do it dahil yun yung exercises natin kanina. So the coordinates of 45 degrees is square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. Remember, this is your coordinates, x, y. And cosine, kung matatandaan ninyo, cosine is defined as x. So that is why cosine 45 degrees is equal to x. And what is the x here in our coordinates? Ito. So therefore, cosine 45 degrees is equal to square root of 2 over 2. Okay, for the second example, we have tangent 300 degrees. So first, we need to identify the coordinates of 300 degrees. And that should be 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay? Since we already have your coordinates, we can now identify the exact value of tangent 300 degrees. So based on the definition of the trigonometric ratios, tangent theta is simply equal to y over x. And you have your coordinates, let's label them x and y. And we simply substitute the values on our definition. So you end up with negative square root of 3 over 2, 1/2. And we're not yet done because this is a complex fraction. So in order to simplify it, we have to multiply negative square root of 3 over 2 by the reciprocal of 1/2. And what is the reciprocal of 1/2? That is 2 over 1. So therefore, we can now write it as negative square root of 3 over 2 multiplied by 2 over 1 instead of 1/2. Reciprocal, babalik rin lang natin si numerator at denominator. Okay? And so simplifying this further, we have negative square root of 3. Right. So for the third example, we have cosine 405 degrees. As you would notice, 405 degrees is already outside our range sa given circle. So the first thing that we have to do is to express or to find the smallest positive coterminal angle. And that is done by subtracting 360 degrees from 405. So 405 degrees minus 360, that is 45 degrees. So what does this mean? It simply means that cosine 405 is equal to cosine 45. And kung anong coordinates ni 45 degrees, yun din ang coordinates ni 405. In that case, ang coordinates natin dito ay square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So those are your coordinates. Label natin ulit xy. So half cosine 45, yun ngayon pagbabasehan natin. Since cosine is defined as x, we simply substitute. Your answer is square root of 2 over 2. For number 4, we have cosine 5 pi over 4. we need to identify the coordinates. That's 5 pi over 4. If you have done the examples that we did in number 1, 5 pi over 4 is simply negative square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. So, yan yung coordinates niya. Okay? So, since may coordinates na tayo, pwede na natin hanapin yung value ng cosine. And cosine is defined as x. Sulat natin. So, that's cosine 5 pi over 4 is equal to x. Substitute natin si x. Remember, ang unang number sa coordinates, yan yung x. So, therefore, ang sagot natin ay negative square root of 2 over 2. And for number 5, we have tangent negative pi over 4. Again, may negative sign. So, matik sure na natin yan na nasa labas yan ng range ng unit circle. So, before we do anything else, we need to find the smallest positive coterminal angle. Okay? So, since negative yan, para makuha si smallest positive, plus 2 pi tayo. So, simplifying that further, we have 7 pi over 4. Okay? So, that's tangent negative pi over 4 is simply equal to tangent 7 pi over 4. Rest assured, kung anong coordinates ni 7 pi over 4, yun din ang magiging coordinates ni negative pi over 4. That is why hinanap natin si smallest positive coterminal angle. So, in that case, ano yung coordinates niya? So, ang coordinates niya ay square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. Label natin x, y. So, ayan. Ito na yung sinabi ko kanina. Si tangent negative pi over 4 equals tangent 7 pi over 4. So, tangent is defined as y over x. Right? So, substitute natin yung coordinates sa y over x. We have negative square root of 2 over 2 all over square root of 2 over 2. Simplifying, we end up with negative 1. For the third example, we have to evaluate the 6 trigonometric ratios. So, all 6 of them. So, first, 270 degrees, and second, 15 pi over 4. Let's do number 1. So, the first example is 270 degrees. Identify the coordinates. Since this is 270 degrees, the coordinates here is 0, negative 1. It is directly located on the negative y-axis. Okay? Ganun lang kasimple. So, we can now use these coordinates to find the 6 trigonometric ratios. So, ito yun siya. So, sine is defined as y. Ito si y. That is why sine 270 is equal to negative 1. Next, cosine 270. That is equal to x. Ito si x. So, therefore, kaya ang sagot natin dyan ay 0. Next is tangent 270. Y over x. You know y, you know x. Simply substitute. We end up with negative 1 over 0. However, 0 ang denominator mo. And division by 0 is undefined. Okay? Remember, I will not accept, or we will not accept negative 1 over 0. Okay? Kapag undefined, call them undefined. Okay? Pero ingat tayo dyan. Kailangan, para masabi natin undefined, kailangan yung 0 nasa denominator. Take a look at cotangent 270 degrees, for example. That's x over y. Pag sinubstitute mo, that's 0 over negative 1. In this case, hindi siya undefined. Bakit? Yung 0 mo, nasa numerator. That's 0 divided by negative 1. May sagot tayo dyan, and that is 0. Similar thing with second 270. That's 1 over x. 1 over 0. 0 na naman yung denominator. kaya siya undefined. Lastly, cosecant 270, that's 1 over y, that is equal to negative 1. So for number 2, we have theta equals 15 pi over 4 radians. So the first thing we need to do is to find the coordinates. Okay? Take a look at your angle theta, 15 pi over 4. That is greater than 2 pi, nasa labas ng range. So therefore, we need to get the smallest positive coterminal angle muna. So to get the smallest positive coterminal angle, magbabawas tayo ng 2 pi. Mas malaki yung 15 pi over 4 sa 2 pi. So magsasubtract tayo. So our answer here should be 7 pi over 4. So 7 pi over 4, yan ngayon yung pagbabasehan natin. And 7 pi over 4 has the coordinates square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. Label natin x, y kung kinakailangan. So, may coordinates na tayo. We can now start with the trigonometric ratios. So the 6 trigonometric ratios are the following. Simulan natin kay sine. Sine theta is equal to y. Hindi na yung magbabago. So anong y sa coordinates natin? It's negative square root of 2 over 2. Yun yung sagot. The same thing with cosine. Square root of 2 over 2. Positive naman. But for tangent, that is y over x. So substitute natin y over x. Si y, negative square root of 2 over 2 all over square root of 2 over 2. If you simplify it, that is negative 1. Okay? The same with cotangent. So let's take a look at secant. Secant 15 pi over 4 is 1 over x, right? If you substitute x, we end up with 1 all over square root of 2 over 2. Ngayon, paano napunta yan dito? Paano naging square root of 2 yan? That is also a complex fraction. So, sulat natin. That's 1 over square root of 2 over 2. Ulit, pag may complex fraction, you multiply the numerator by the reciprocal of the denominator. So, that's 1 multiplied by reciprocal ng denominator mo. Reciprocal nito. So, that's 2 over square root of 2. So, that is simply 2 over square root of 2. But we're not yet done. Kasi, ang denominator mo ay radical. So, what we need to do is, we have to rationalize the denominator. In this case, we multiply the numerator and the denominator by square root of 2. So, we end up with 2 square root of 2 over 2. Canceling them, we end up with square root of 2. And that is why your answer for secant 15 pi over 4 is square root of 2. And the same thing with cosecant 15 pi over 4. Hindi ko na uulitin. Same process lang din yan. So the answer here is negative square root of 2. So that's it for your module 1. If you still have any questions, you can message your basic calculus teachers on their respective Facebook accounts. This is Mr. De Los Santos. Have a nice day.
Happy learning at home with lessons made easy by Olivarian GoTeach. One proud Olivarian.